Hey, and we're back with another episode of Drop Your Noise. If you're new to this show, hey, my name is Kirti. I'm the host. So, this week's guest, before I introduce to you about where he's from and what we are talking about, he had me thinking about my past, my relationship with my father, actually. Now, my parents, when they got married, they moved pretty early to Curacao. And my father worked really, really hard. Some days we hardly saw him. And it was important for my parents to be very focused on making their lives better so that it actually made our lives better. Their primary goal was to offer and bring security in our lives. But security was from a financial thinking. And then life happens and the security fell apart. And that made me go on another journey of how to understand and redefine my sense of security. And in this week's episode, I was surprised by what my guest Nick shared about security and what he wanted for his own daughter. Now, give you some context. Nick and I have known each other since university days. Okay, don't judge our age here. We've been talking for the last year a little bit more than usual. The reason being is that he left Dubai and moved to Canada, whereas I moved from London to Dubai. And so when I asked him in the beginning, if he wanted his daughter to know one thing, what would it be? And he framed the word security. I was inspired by the way he shared his decision making and what he did to make that happen. I don't want to leave too much out of the bag. I'm going to let you listen in. And at the end of the show, I'll be interested to find out what your thoughts are on it. So, if you had to leave something for your daughter, you want her to know that one thing, what would it be?
If I were to leave something for my daughter, it would definitely be security. But if there's something that I would want her to know, I think I would want her to know that she is more powerful than maybe she thinks that she is. And she has the ability to do absolutely anything that she wants to do in life if she believes in herself. And she takes steps towards pursuing whatever it is that she wants to pursue. And I think that belief is a major component in being able to accomplish whatever you want in life. And if she can have that belief at a young age, then I think that she can do absolutely whatever she sets her heart on.
Okay, let's unpack that one. The word belief, I'm thinking about the word belief, and I'm thinking about the word you can do anything you want. I mean, I'm a girl raised that thinking, you get told you can do whatever you want, but then when you go through it, it's not as easy. And it does trigger the belief. So what does that mean for you, belief?
When you go through life not believing in yourself, in your abilities as a human, looking at the world and people that are around you, and seeing the kinds of things that they've accomplished. If your reaction to that is, wow, that's fantastic, that's amazing what they've done, I could never do that, you're already kind of setting yourself up for failure. Whereas if you look at people and the things that they've accomplished and the things that they do and say, I want to do that. How can I do that? What do I need to do to be able to do that thing that really speaks to me? It's two different attitudes in life, and you have to have that belief in yourself as a human being that nobody got to any of the positions that they got to in their lives by not believing in themselves. Yes, it's not easy. You do have to put in hard work. You have to put in time. You have to put in a lot of effort. You have to have a certain amount of intellect, some creativity, skills that I believe my daughter has. But that really critical component of belief and determination, I would add, is something that can help her and anybody else, whether it's her or anyone, to be able to accomplish anything that they want in their lives.
Okay. I get that to some degree, right? I'm smiling. There are two questions I have in my mind. I'm not sure which one to pick first. So I'm going to pick on the first one, which is this idea of you can do whatever you want. And I've heard a lot of parents tell me their kids are very unique, very gifted, and it's almost like they put a child on a pedestal. And you're feeling very awkward because you don't have children and you can't say anything. But I'm pretty sure I would have done the same thing with my kids. So when it comes to every child going into this world, they're all coming with this lens that I'm unique and I'm gifted because I was raised this way. It doesn't go according to that way. What then? How do you navigate that moment of struggle?
Well, let's unpack that a little bit. You have to have a certain level of inbuilt talent, whether that's intellect, whether that's creativity, artistry, whatever you want to call it. You have to have a certain level of that.
Inbuilt talent.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think there's certain things that people are born with that they naturally gravitate towards. They have a talent towards, whether it's speaking, whether their aptitude is towards technical things or things that they manipulate with their hands. Maybe they're good with machines, computers, art, whatever it is. You have to have a level of inbuilt talent on some level, and the rest of you going from having that inbuilt talent to actually being successful in life, producing work of quality that will bring value to someone, it needs a lot of effort. It needs repetition. It needs education. It needs trial and error. It needs experience and all those kinds of things. And you have to put those two things together. You can go to some extent of success with just talent. You can go to some extent of success with just hard work because you can train yourself to do certain things. But if you put the two together, then you can have the level of excellence that you can be proud of in your life. And there is also an element of luck. There is an element of what your personal circumstances are and in terms of where you're born, what opportunities you have around you, and all this kind of stuff. But, I'm a huge basketball fan, and I've seen kids from Africa that, were in the right place at the right time. They knew nothing about basketball, and they decided to follow their hearts and go try out for something and work really, really hard at it, and become NBA champions. My favorite player these days is a guy called Pascal Siakam, who plays for the Toronto Raptors, who literally came from Cameroon. His father wanted him to be a priest. And he said, no, I'm going to play basketball. And he followed his dream. And he hadn't played basketball from the start of his life. Basketball was not a big part of his childhood or anything like that, but this is something that he wanted to do, and he worked and worked and worked and took some of that talent that he had within him, honed it to another level, and went all the way, became an NBA championship, and hopefully I think he's going to win another one right now because he just won game one last night of a 7-game series, and I'm super excited about that. That's why I'm talking about it. But for the same thing, any child, any girl, any boy, as far as my daughter is concerned, I can tell her that really people from all over the world that don't necessarily have the kinds of opportunities that she has living in Canada, and the education and the exposures that she's had to the world, and the platform that she has. If she wants to have anything in this world, most likely she can achieve it if she puts her mind to it and if she works for it.
Did you know what her talent was?
I thought her talent was art. when she was growing up, she was incredibly gifted as an artist, and then she worked towards honing that and training for it, and producing things. When she was in her early teens, she herself set up something on the internet to showcase her art and sell it, and she got commissions, and she made hundreds, if not thousands of dollars producing art and selling it online. And I wish that at her age, if I was that age, I'd had that sort of drive to do those kinds of things and take those kinds of chances, and believe in myself and do the things that she did. So I thought her talent was art, and it is, but she has decided to go in a different direction and pursue computer science, because she wants to keep her hobby and professional life something separate. And maybe that'll link up again in the future. We don't know.
I find it curious you're saying that, because I felt the same way.
Is that right?
Good at yeah. You're really good at something. I was very good at let's say like yoga, but by the time I was over it, I was like, I don't want to go back, because that was me. And I felt like a part of me was stripped away and left me very confused. So I understand when she says, keep it separately. So that's why I was questioning the idea of this word unique. You're really good at something and you keep focusing on that, but then aren't you then missing this entire other world that you could also be good at, Because as women, we tend to just be here because we're good at it, but we don't give ourselves a lot of opportunity to explore others. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts?
I think in general, it's difficult to pursue something that you're really passionate about and be able to sustain yourself in this world doing that thing, unless you're willing to and recognize from an early age and have the opportunity to, obviously, to pursue that and to be able to develop that to a level that it can sustain you. So, as an example, for example, when I was when I was growing up in Pakistan, I loved the idea of being able to fly. Now, I wanted to be Superman when I was a kid, but that wasn't really a practical thing. So the next best thing for me would have been to become a pilot and a helicopter pilot specifically. And unfortunately, the only way for me to have become a pilot at that time in Pakistan would have been to join the army, so that I could have the ability to train as a pilot and be able to fly helicopters. But that wasn't in alignment with what I wanted to do in life. I didn't want to be in the army and do the kinds of things that you do in an army. So I didn't have, that opportunity to do that, to pursue that. Having said that, if I had an opportunity to pursue becoming a pilot and being able to do it at an early enough age, then, I could be happy with my career choice and do the thing that I love and be able to sustain myself and all of that. So there is a bit of luck involved in your circumstances based on where you are and what's available to you as an opportunity and all of that. And that's one of the reasons actually why we came to Canada.
I was going to ask you, why did you come? I mean, everybody's flocking to Dubai like I did. And you were like, hi, I'm out of here. I'm going the opposite direction. So I'm like curious, why?
Yeah. So the issue with living in Dubai, I love Dubai. I lived in Dubai for 17 years. It gave me some of the happiest memories that I have of anywhere. I met my wife in Dubai, and we had a fantastic life together there. Some of my closest friends are from Dubai, and some of them are still in Dubai. The reason why we left is because of the visa system. At that time, you're completely dependent on whether you're employed by someone or whether you have your own business or whether you have some specific property that gives you the ability to stay in Dubai indefinitely, right? And if you lose your job, you could lose your visa. If you can't find a job within, I think it was 90 days or whatever, then you have to leave the country. And for specific passports, which I had a Pakistani passport at the time, that was an issue. And I didn't want, and I kind of feared that if I lived in Dubai and something, God forbid, happened to me, I was sponsoring my wife as a visa holder, and my daughter, obviously, who was born in Dubai. I figured that if I lost my job, or worse, if I wasn't around at all, within a few months, they would be told, you need to leave Dubai and go home.
Wow.
And home for my wife is Bulgaria, and a place that my daughter didn't really know, and I didn't really want her to grow up in Bulgaria. At the same time, the other option would have been to go to Pakistan, and I didn't want my wife from Bulgaria to go and try to adjust in a life in Pakistan, no matter how much support she would have had from my family members there. And for my daughter, the idea was, she might have been born in Dubai and grown up all her life in Dubai and known Dubai as her home.
Yeah.
But if at one point she didn't have a visa, they would tell her, go home. And she wouldn't have known what home is at that point. And so I really wanted to get her to a place where she could put some roots down. We could all put some roots down and feel like that's the place that we belong. And we grew up and we have our childhood friends and memories and places that we know and we're comfortable in and all of that sort of stuff. And, we had the luxury at the time to look around everywhere in the world and see what would be the best place, what would be the most suitable place for us to go. And Canada turned out to be our number one choice, looking at the different factors that we looked at.
And that gives you a lot of different prospects for your daughter, right? Because now you're not just, you're in your family, there's four dynamics. There's Dubai upbringing, Bulgaria influence, Pakistani influence, and Canadian influence. That's four.
Yeah. And the idea was that, say that again?
How do you navigate that with her? Because that's your daughter.
Well, I think we always brought her up to be adaptable to the circumstances, and we didn't put a lot of pressure on her for many things. But obviously, being an Asian parent, one of the things was, hey, you have to focus in school, and you have to do well, and everything else that you want in your life will be there to provide you and make your life as comfortable as possible. But this is one thing that we don't want to compromise on, and I think that's in our DNA as Asians, is that we need our kids to focus on education. But I think that the thing for me was not just the great education that Canada could provide and the opportunities that it could provide to her, because it's a very cosmopolitan place. People from all over the world. Obviously, one of the greatest countries in the world. Lots of great opportunities in many ways and all of that. But the other thing that I wanted her to do is to grow up in an environment where legally and culturally you are aware that you're equal, that you have rights, that you have the recourse to the law, that your voice, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your ethnicity is, what your religion is, whatever your background is, that you have a voice, and you're equal to everybody else that is part of that nation. And unfortunately, no matter how wonderful Dubai is, because you're an expat, you don't have the same rights. You can't vote. All of those kinds of issues are there. I'm not going to get into too many of the other issues, but those kinds of things are there. And I felt that I wanted her to grow up in a country from a young age where she could feel that in her blood, and that would be part of her personality growing up. Because now that she has it, she's almost 20. She's going to be 20 in October.
Wow.
She can live anywhere in the world And that's going to be part of her personality to say, hey, I am equal to every other human being on this earth, and how I treat you should be the way that you treat me, and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I find that very interesting, because I think if I had been in my 20s or 30s, or even 20s or 30s, even 40s, I don't think I would have settled down in the East. And I'm saying East broadly. I don't think I would have been able to, because of my Western heritage. So I do get that, because I do question things. I do ask myself on certain things. Europe doesn't have its issue when it comes to female voices either. There's like a whole different. It's different, but there are also those limitations. So what I was thinking about is, for you to even get to that part, you were born and raised in Pakistan, right? But yet you wanted to give your daughter the opportunity to get to this equality. You won't find that very often. I mean, my dad, as much as I loved him, we lived in Curacao. Education was forefront, but I knew when 20 hit, I was supposed to get married. It was like that was still there, but that's right. Back then. So what was it like for you? What's it like for you? How much does let me ask it this way. What does your daughter make you aware of yourself to want to aspire to give her the most?
Yeah. Maybe it's with every parent, but for me, I wanted her to have all of the things that I lacked, perhaps to some level, when I was growing up. So
you lacked?
That I lacked, yeah. So I lived until the age of 17 in Pakistan. My mom passed away when I was 5, and so I missed a big part of my life, having that support of a mother who's focused on my welfare and my well-being, and to be able to guide me to do all of the things that I need to do in the right way, and all of that sort of stuff. So I always wanted her to have an experience that was stable, had a stable family and a loving family, and somebody who supported her as a human being and as a soul that wanders this planet, and help her build a platform from which she can launch her life and live it on a much higher level and a much better level than I was able to. And again, to give her the kinds of opportunities that maybe I didn't have because of my nationality. Because as a Pakistani citizen, unfortunately, at least when I was growing up, I don't know if that's very different right now. It probably isn't. But the opportunities to live in the world and be part of the world were quite limited. I would have loved to have stayed in England, where we met each other, and I studied and lived in England for 8 or 9 years. But I wasn't able to stay in England with all these wonderful relationships that I had made, and all these friendships that I had made, and this life that I had discovered and built while I was there for that period of time, because of my passport. I had to leave England and go back to Pakistan, and to be able to get back to England was going to be quite challenging. And that's actually how I ended up in Dubai, because I wanted to have the kind of exposure, the kind of experience that would have enabled me to go back to England and go and rejoin my friends and the relationships that I had built and all of that. And having that nationality and having that passport, despite my education, I got a master's while I was at Buckingham. Despite the education, despite the great upbringing, whatever was the benefits that I had being my father's son and all of this, it didn't really help me as long as I had this constraint of the nationality. And I didn't want her to have to go through those constraints either. So again, we thought that Canada would be a good place for her to not only get a great education and have that DNA of feeling equal and having opportunities as a woman,
Yeah.
in this world, but also then to have that asset of Canadian citizenship, where then she can decide to stay in Canada or work anywhere that she wants to work in the world, live anywhere that she wants to in the world. And that was something that I think only people who have gone through that, stark difference between one nationality and then not having that constraint can probably appreciate. I can relate to an anecdote of going through the airport. Well, every time I used to go through London Heathrow as a student to get in and out of the country, going home to Pakistan and then coming back after summer vacations or whatever it was, every single time, I would get stopped and checked and questioned. And even though my, visa was perfectly fine and it was there for like however many years it was supposed to be valid for, always used to get the third degree. People speak to you rudely and all of this kind of stuff. And it's quite intimidating as a young person, going through all of that, or at least it was for me. Yeah. And then recently when we got our Canadian citizenship and I went back to England, there was a line that said UK, EU, US, and Canadian citizens over here, everybody else on the other side. And so I used to always go in the everybody else side. And this first time, and then the queue was much smaller and the people were really polite, and it just felt like, oh my God, this is a whole nother universe that I've stepped into just because of this Canadian passport. And it feels like a big deal to me. And for my daughter, she's never going to know that feeling of inferiority or that feeling of intimidation or whatever because of that. And, if nothing else, then at least that's going to be something that I was able to provide her.
It's really funny you say that because I have two anecdotes to build on that one. First, I always tell people I'm very appreciative that I was born and raised in the Caribbean under the wing of the Netherlands. As much as everybody's like, they'll be like, you should get your own passport, be proud. Having a Dutch passport gives you a liberation, and I appreciate that. Second of all, they're very frank people. So the filter from my mouth just got removed. And so in the Indian community, that's a challenge. It's like, how do you speak up?
But that's what I'm talking about, right? It's in your blood. It's in your DNA now.
Yeah, it is. And what I appreciate then also from the layer of the Caribbean side is you learn that because you're with so many different cultures, you can't just voice what you want to voice. You got to always take into consideration the other side. So I really appreciate all those grants. But when I got here in Dubai, it was very funny. I thought it was, to some point, it was refreshing, right? Because when I was in Buckingham and I was dating Love at the time, I was always told, you are a Desi. You're not that Indian person, right? You were very well told that you're foreign, So, okay. And so when I got here, I got down and I was told to go to another line. And I'm like, why am I being told to go to this line? So I looked at this line and it's very different. And so I asked one of the gentlemen, I was like, why am I in this line? And he was like, what passport do you have? I said, I have a Dutch passport. And he's like, go to the other side. And I don't know why they told you that. So I go to the other side and this woman goes, why are you here? I said, because I was told I have a Dutch passport. She goes, oh, I thought you had an Indian passport. And I was like, wow. It was like, okay, all right. So then you go through the whole process and it's like midnight and I'm like, okay, I just want to get to my bed at this point, right? And then when I get here, every time I get into the cab, I'm always, first thing they speak to me is Hindi. And second of all, they're like, so which part of India are you from? And then I have to tell them, actually, I'm not. And they're like, and then they won't ask me where I'm from. The second question is, aren't you Indian? And I'm like, and at that point, I'm like, I can choose. I can say I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from the
Mm-hmm.
Netherlands, because they're all right. None of them is wrong.
Yeah.
So I always say I'm Dutch, because then it cuts the conversation, because I'm like, I just want to get to my next point.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I understand that complexity that you're talking about, that inferiority. You don't want to feel that, I mean, I don't feel it if I'm in the expat community, right? It's interesting because Indian women will treat me differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then the expats who, they're like, oh, your accent is not from, it's from the West.
Yeah.
And then so it's like, come on, and so you are constantly observing that. At least I'm constantly observing it. So I understand exactly what you mean of that limitation, or not limitation. I think it's more of it's cultural. I would just
It's a
say.
challenge. It's a constraint. Yeah.
But I wonder if you're in it, you would never see the other side of it, right?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's really unfortunate that people will behave towards you with some preconceptions, just based on how you look or what your name is, or what the color of your passport is and stuff like that. And people don't just treat people as, let me interact with this person before I make any kind of judgments about that. But that's human nature, and I get that.
Exactly.
And it's terrible that I have to move, or I've thought of, moving to Canada and getting a Canadian citizenship for myself or for my daughter, to be able to give her more opportunities in life, and for her to be treated in a different way than I have when I was growing up. I would love to be able to say, hey, I'm Pakistani, but this is, my personality, this is my intellect, these are my skills, this is the kind of person that I am. And those two things are not connected to each other. Just because I'm Pakistani doesn't mean I'm fantastic, doesn't mean I'm not fantastic. It has nothing to do with anything. I am who I am because of who I am and what experiences I've had and what upbringing I've had. And that has nothing to do with my nationality. But sadly, that's the world that we live in, is that people make preconceptions based on all of those factors.
So this comes to my Drop Your Noise. I've published this book called Drop Your Noise, right? It's 59 ways how to observe your communication for sensitivities like this.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to take something, we should drop our noise, because you've now lived in so many different countries. You've lived in Pakistan, Dubai, England, Canada. Have I forgotten anywhere else?
I think that's it.
I love that, right? When you can do that.
Yeah.
What is the one thing in all your experiences, seeing the involvement of women also, championing your daughter, what do you feel we should drop our noise more about? What could we do and just to push that needle further?
I think especially these days, where I feel the world, on many sides, it has regressed, I fear. But at the same time, I have so much faith in the younger generation that seem to be heading in the right direction in terms of what they like, what they don't like, what they value, what they don't value. And yes, there's a lot of, especially if you look at social media, especially, you'll think that there's only negativity out there. And you'll think that there's only like really horrible things that are happening in this world. But I disagree with that. It gets a little bit overwhelming for me sometimes, and then I have to kind of pull myself back and say, no, hang on. The real life experiences that you've had with meeting and speaking to younger people and talking to my daughter about, people that are around her and her experiences. Yeah. And also from what I see on social media and what, younger people are doing and speaking up about and speaking out for these days, I have a lot of faith that, the world is going to go in the right direction, and that some of that toxicity that's been around and that is around right now is maybe within some of the generations that are fading out as voices, and they're kind of going through their last hurrah right now to try and make a last stand to be something. But I think everybody's kind of sick of all of that, and people want to be individuals, be able to do whatever they want to do in life. love whoever they want to love in life, and be whoever they want to be, and get equal respect to anyone else. So I think that the noise that I think we need to drop as human beings that live on this planet is that we're all different. Having lived in all of these different places and grown up in all of these places, and it was shocking for me when I came to Canada, because I thought that the kind of behaviors that I would see in my village in Pakistan, where people don't have access to education, they don't have exposure, they haven't traveled, and they haven't seen those behaviors, I found are very much exactly the same in North America within certain communities, and that was shocking for me because, you have access to the internet, you have access to education, you've got access to one of the strongest passports and citizenships in the world, and economic opportunities and ability and all these kinds of things. But the behavior, the thinking, it's all exactly the same. And that was shocking. And I think that if people start realizing on all levels, the good and the bad, that we are exactly the same people everywhere in the world. We just look a little bit different and sound a little bit different, and maybe have access to different opportunities. But if we start really dropping that noise that we're all different and start working together, then maybe we can make our lives and the lives of this planet a lot better.
I love it. I used to say we're all same different.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Exactly what you're saying. You're saying we are all different. The way we execute is different. And I agree with you. I was surprised to find out that so many people from North America have not traveled outside their continent.
Forget about their continent. There's some people that haven't traveled outside their state.
That's it. Yeah. And that for me, when everybody used to say travel is a privilege, I used to think, no, my family is literally all around the world. So for me, it wasn't a privilege in some direction. But then when you hear something like that, you go, yeah, actually, this is quite a privilege to be able to do that, because the same different mentality stays with you. At least for me, it stays with me wherever I go. I don't know about you, but for me, yeah.
I think the more you travel and the more you live in places like Dubai or Canada, where there's people from all over the world, the more exposure you get to human beings that don't look like you and don't sound like you, and all of that sort of stuff, you get this realization that we're all the same, and we can join together and do good things for ourselves and for each other as human beings. Or if you keep thinking that there's differences between me and the next person, and so there's something fundamentally wrong with these other people because they're not like me. Well, everybody thinks that like that, that you're different because you're not like me. And if you think like that, then you're constantly going to be clashing. I think that's the noise that we need to drop as a planet, is that we're different. We're not. We are exactly the same. And we have exactly the same hopes and dreams, desires for ourselves and our family members and our loved ones.
Yeah.
And we need to really start kind of building on that.
Well, I have two things again to ask you. Well, two things to mention. So there's a statement when, I don't know, I kind of find them funny to some degree, but also not funny, is that Gen Z, because I clocked on that your daughter is in the Gen Z phase, right? I think she's in the Gen Z, but what happens is they're the ones who are now in the workforce and everything. Mm-hmm. So everybody labels them as the lazy community, right? Mm-hmm. And so social media will drive that narrative over and over again, Mm-hmm. But then I heard something really beautiful, and I like that what you said. You took I love the spin, like it's very positive how they're going forward, the way they're thinking. So you kind of cancel the whole laziness aspect here. But I also find that this generation that's coming next is actually not as into tech as people think they are, because they've grown up with it and it's so normal. They're also yearning for that social connection. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to talk about that as far as Gen Z being lazy is concerned.
Yeah.
People that are labeling Gen Z as lazy are the kinds of people that have grown up in a system that says you should work 40 to 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It doesn't matter that you have to sit in traffic on top of that for an hour or two every day, going back and forth to the place that you work.
Mm-hmm.
You should drop everything in your life to serve the company that you're working for, and be part of the economy and all of these kinds of things, and forget about your family and forget about your desires in life as a human being.
Yeah.
And you should be part of this engine that makes 1% of the world richer than you can ever imagine, and be part of that rat race. And that's what makes you not lazy. And I think that's horrible. I think this Gen Z that's realizing, no, I don't want to have that life. I don't want to work 80 hours a week and be stuck in traffic and do all of these kinds of things that the previous generations have drilled into everyone, that this is what it is to be honorable, to be part of the society, and to be part of the economy and all this kind of stuff, and to give your entire life and all of your energy and all of your youth to chasing this dream that one day you'll have the ability to relax and enjoy your job. Before, it used to be 55, and then it's 60, and then it's 65, and then for people like me who have to pay my mortgage for the next 27 years, I'm not going to be able to do any of that. I'm gonna die working at some point if I want to pay off this house. So I think it's a labeling that is not accurate. I think the younger generation is waking up to the fact that this economic system that we've built up around the world is to blame for a lot of the absolutely horrible things that we see on every level in the world today. And that's something that needs to change. And if Gen Z or any of these generations that are coming up are like, yeah, we don't want to be part of this broken, toxic system, then that system is going to collapse and something new has to come out of it. And I think what's coming out of it these days is AI. Because what's going to happen is a lot of these repetitive, relatively simpler jobs that are being done right now by human beings are going to be done by AI. That's going to get coupled with robotics. It's already getting coupled with robotics, but it's going to get to a level that some of these jobs that human beings struggle to do are only going to be done by AI at a much better level, at a much more efficient level, at a much less painful level, by a coupling of AI and robotics. And millions of jobs will eventually not be around anymore. So what's going to happen? The economic system is going to have to change. There's going to be millions of people in this world who have not had the ability to change what they've done and get into those kinds of vocations, those kinds of lines of work where they can actually be part of society that's kind of governed by AI technologies and robotic technologies and all of that. And there's going to be a huge disruption. People will be very upset. They won't have jobs, potentially, or they won't have the ability to earn as much.
Which is coming now, isn't it?
Which is coming now. And the economic system is going to have to change. Money right now in the world that we live in is a huge part of it, because money means shelter. Money means security. Money means the ability to access experiences that you want in life, to be able to travel the world, which is a privilege, to be able to have access to certain things. And that's what I said. And for me, at least, one of the biggest things that I can give to my daughter is security. To not have that feeling of if I don't go to work, if I don't go and, you know, slave in the rat race, and do things which I really absolutely hate, being stuck in traffic for 2 hours, 4 hours every day, and then work in a company for 8 to 10 hours that keep telling me that, oh yes, you're just like family, and you know, we're all a big family over here. But as soon as, you know, our 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 profitability drops 1 point, then we have to make cuts, because you know, that's just that's how it is.
Now
Like,
you're not family, you're just
then you're not family, right? Then we don't have to take care of you. You're the most expendable person, so you're out of here. I think Gen Z and people have started realizing that this whole system is just really broken, and something needs to change. They might not know what that change is right now, but they know that this isn't it. This ain't it. People need to start changing the way that they view human beings and the value that they bring, instead of being so compartmentalized to say, this is the cog that I need in my machine. You know, and that's how businesses are run these days. They're run like machines with specific cogs that will do specific things. And there's very few companies, one of them which I admire very much, whose name, of course, I'm forgetting, where one of the CEOs said, I'm not going to take a CEO salary and give everybody else less than what they need to live a dignified life. Instead, I'm going to pay everybody exactly the same, including myself. And the amount of loyalty that they had, the amount of value that they were able to produce from that company with the people that worked there. When they went through COVID, people voluntarily said, cut my salary, so that the company can survive. And then when the company went through all of that and they got to the other end, the CEO then paid them back all of that money that they got. And you know, they've been thriving. Like, that's what the world needs to be like. To say, we're all in this together. It's not just me who wants everything for me, because I had a great idea. Maybe I'm smarter than you. Maybe I have access more than you. Maybe I've had resources and connections more than you. But that doesn't make me better than you. You have a value as a human being from a perspective that you're bringing. And, you know, that's, again, I feel like I'm becoming more and more Buddhist as time goes on, is I really see people as not separate from each other. You know, that we're all part of this. Like, if you zoom out, if you get into your spaceship, whether it's in the Star Wars universe or the Star Trek universe, and you zoom out far enough, and you look at this little blue dot in the middle of space, where everything that has ever happened that humanity knows about happened. Everybody that has ever lived has lived. Everybody that lives now lives, and probably in the future. You realize that, you know, we're part of this earth, that we came from this earth. Yeah. Literally, our atoms and molecules are part of this planet. And so what the hell are we doing fighting against each other and making this world a more difficult place to live for each other and destroying it as we go? It just doesn't make any sense.
I learned that when I was teaching in the yoga center. I wanted to listen to people's different stories. And because yoga is always, you know, Indian and religious and everything.
Yeah.
You quickly realize that you have to put your belief aside. And then you listen to other people's story and you go, we're walking the same road. You know, you start seeing yourself in each other. And then you realize that, you know, if you did do that zooming out, you realize you're just a speck. And all the little specks is what makes this world complete and go round, you know, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I get you. I get where you're coming from. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode as much as I did. For me, security was always taught in the shape of financial growth. And to listen to Nick and discover that actually security can come through making her believe in herself and creating the conditions for that. I found that so inspiring. And I have a question for you. Okay, if you're a parent out there, how do you influence your own decisions? What influences it actually? I'd be curious to know if there are other ways, and what would they be? If you enjoyed this show, please make sure you're following to stay updated and get notified. Otherwise, I would really appreciate it if you could share it to others. You never know out there who would grow from just listening to this one conversation. And it's together, that's how we make that impact. Till the next one, have a good one. Take care.